Hello and welcome to a new HiCAD short clip. In this video I would like to show you the new features in modeling. With Service Pack 1, HiCAD now supports the import of OBJ files. There are also options for this, which can be saved as favorites. You can also conveniently drag and drop these files into the HiCAD workspace. A real highlight of the Service Pack is the new planning grid, which replaces the previous steel engineering grid. With a completely revised user interface, it offers you universal application possibilities as well as new options for creating and annotating. There are new options for defining the distances between axes in each direction, such as absolute distances. In addition, an angle can be specified for the X and Y directions. A projection can be defined separately for each direction. A suitable name for the grid can now also be entered at the bottom of the dialog. The dimensions of the grid, excluding the projections, are displayed below this. You can also save the configured grid as a favorite and reuse it in future drawings. Another new feature is the option to create individual axes only on certain levels. A very practical new feature here is inserting axes between two other axes, because after entering the new distance, the two axes remain in position and only the distances between them are adjusted. The annotation of axes can now be configured in more detail. In the additional dialog, the start value, a prefix and suffix can be entered, as well as the symbol if an axis has been added later. The Generate button is used to reassign all designations. In addition, the axes of the grid can now be shown or hidden in the view. This gives you flexibility for each view and you can display different states for each construction phase. Finally, the annotation has also been improved. You can find more details on this in a separate short clip. With the expansion of the new standard processing, this is now the main function in the ribbon. The previous functions have been moved to a submenu. The reference plane for depth specification setting has been moved from the drilling depth upwards under the processing plane. This adjustment affects the new runouts, undercuts and countersunk holes. The new standard processings have been significantly expanded in terms of modes and grids. The forms thread runout and thread undercut have been added to the existing modes. These can be selected from the catalog and configured much more flexibly than before. In addition, the standard processings button row has been revised and the context menus have been adapted accordingly. When selecting points for the grid, an edge preview of the bore pattern now appears. For linear and rectangular patterns using references, there is also a visualization of the line along which the bores are distributed. Another new feature is that you can select an edge as the start or end point for the reference modes. The start and end of the edge are selected and automatically entered, which makes the work considerably easier. Last but not least, a new attribute has been added for the pre-bend length of curved beams or profiles. The reason for this is that previously a decision had to be made as to which length was assigned the length attribute, either the pre-bend length or the actual length of the part dimension. Now both lengths can be used in parallel. The attribute for the pre-bend length is always calculated automatically. In addition, the attribute must be configured in the masks or at other points of use. The attributes of steel engineering parts have also been adjusted and now correspond to the calculations of sheet metal parts. For this, too, further attributes have been added to hold different calculation results at the same time. The corresponding tab in the Steel Engineering Settings dialog has been removed. Instead, You can now configure the calculated attributes in the configuration editor at System Settings, Attribute Management, Attribute Calculation. And that's it for this HiCAD short clip. I hope you enjoyed it and wish you lots of fun designing.